Let me start with a question that might annoy some people. What if the single worst wealth decision most Americans make isn't buying too much house, isn't credit card debt, isn't eating out too often? It's their car. Not because cars are evil, not because you should never drive something nice, and not because every car loan automatically ruins your life, but because for millions of people, the car becomes the most normalized financial mistake they ever make. It's the mistake nobody questions. It's the mistake society claps for. It's the mistake people make while telling themselves they're being responsible. Because unlike blowing money at a casino or impulse buying designer clothes, buying an expensive car feels mature. It feels justified. You tell yourself, I need something reliable. I deserve something nice. I drive every day. It's only a monthly payment. I can afford it. And that last one, I can afford it, has probably destroyed more wealth than people realize. Because in America, affordability is almost never measured by price anymore. It's measured by monthly payment. That changes everything. You're not asking, should I spend $48,000 on a rapidly depreciating machine? You're asking, can I handle $739 a month? That framing is financially deadly. Because once you start thinking in payments instead of total cost, almost anything starts to look reasonable. A bigger car? Only a little more per month. A higher trim? Not that much more per month. Longer loan term? Problem solved. Suddenly, people who would never drop 50 grand in cash without panicking casually agree to do exactly that, plus interest, because the number has been broken into digestible pieces. And the result? They lock themselves into years of wealth drag. Not for an asset that grows, not for something that pays them back, not for something that creates future income, but for a vehicle that loses value, keeps costing money, and quietly steals their ability to build real financial freedom. And the scary part is, this doesn't just hurt low-income households. This hits middle-class people, upper-middle-class people, even high-income earners. Because the car trap isn't just about income, it's about normalization. It's about what everyone else around you is doing. It's about how easy it is to confuse lifestyle with progress. And today, I want to break down why your car is probably the worst wealth decision you make, how the system encourages it, and what to do instead if you actually want your money to start working for you. Because this topic is bigger than cars. It's really about whether you're building wealth or just driving your future around in a shiny monthly payment.
Here's what makes cars financially dangerous. They are one of the few enormous purchases people make with almost no emotional resistance. Think about it. If I told someone to spend $55,000 on furniture, they'd probably laugh. If I told them to spend $55,000 on clothes over the next few years, they'd think that was insane. If I told them to spend $55,000 on a hobby, they'd say that's irresponsible. But say it's a car? Now it becomes normal. Now it becomes practical. Now it becomes, well, yeah, cars are expensive. And that sentence right there, cars are expensive, has become one of the most dangerous accepted beliefs in personal finance. Because it doesn't just describe reality, it excuses behavior. It gives people permission to stop questioning. And once people stop questioning, they stop calculating. They don't ask, how much of my income is this eating? How much interest will I pay? How much is insurance going to cost? What is the opportunity cost of investing this difference? How many years of extra work is this car adding to my life? They just accept the deal. And this is where personal finance gets uncomfortable. Because the car you drive says a lot less about your wealth than people think. In many cases, it says more about your willingness to finance appearances than your ability to build actual assets. There are people driving $70,000 trucks with almost no emergency fund. There are people driving luxury SUVs while carrying credit card balances. There are people making six figures who can't invest consistently because their car payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, and registration are quietly eating the margin they need to get ahead. And from the outside, They look successful. That's part of the trap. Cars are public. Wealth is private. People see the car on the driveway. They don't see the brokerage account you never funded. They don't see the retirement contributions you skipped. They don't see the stress of having fixed expenses that are way too high. So the car becomes a performance, a signal, a rolling symbol that says, "I'm doing well," even when financially the opposite is true. And to be fair, this doesn't mean everyone with a nice car is broke. Of course not. Some people genuinely can afford expensive vehicles without sacrificing their long-term goals. But that's not what most people mean when they say they can afford it. What they usually mean is, I can squeeze the payment into my current monthly life. That is not the same as affording something. Affording something means it fits into your life without damaging your other priorities. Affording something means you can own it without delaying wealth building. Affording something means the decision doesn't quietly steal from your future. That's the standard most people never use. And if they did, a lot fewer people would be signing those papers at the dealership. The dealership does not want you focused on total cost. They want you focused on comfort. Not physical comfort, psychological comfort. They want the number to feel manageable. That's why the conversation often revolves around one thing. What monthly payment are you looking for? That question sounds helpful. It is not helpful. It is strategically brilliant because it gets you to anchor your decision around pain tolerance, not value. You stop asking whether the car is worth the money. You start asking whether the payment hurts enough to say no. And once that happens, they can manipulate the rest. Longer loan term, lower payment. Trade-in rolled in, still manageable. Higher rate doesn't look as scary when spread out. Add-ons, just another few dollars a month. This is how people end up massively overbuying cars without fully realizing it. They're solving for the monthly payment, not the total financial impact. And let's say someone tells themselves it's only $650 a month. Only? That's $7,800 a year. Over 5 years, that's $39,000 before thinking about higher insurance, taxes, fees, fuel, repairs, maintenance, and the fact that the car is likely worth far less by then. And for many households, that car payment isn't just a number. It's the reason they can't max out a Roth IRA. It's the reason they contribute less to their 401k. It's the reason their emergency fund stays weak. It's the reason they feel like they make decent money but somehow never get ahead. Because monthly payments are sneaky. They blend into life. They don't feel like one giant financial punch. They feel like a quiet, ongoing leak. And leaks are dangerous because people adapt to them. They say, that's just part of life. But no, not all of it is just part of life. Some of it is a choice you normalized. That car payment may be normal in your neighborhood. It may be common in your friend group. It may even be expected in your profession. That doesn't make it harmless. A normal mistake is still a mistake. And when you repeat this pattern every few years, trading in early, upgrading, resetting the loan, staying permanently inside car payments, you create a cycle where one depreciating asset keeps interrupting your ability to build appreciating ones. That's not just expensive, that's wealth sabotage.
Now, let's talk about the part most people ignore. Opportunity cost. This is where the car decision becomes way more serious than it looks. Because the real cost of an expensive car is not just what you pay for the car, it's what that money could have become if it had been invested instead. Let's do simple math. Say someone spends $700 a month on a car payment when they could have chosen a more reasonable vehicle and spent $350 instead. That's a $350 difference. Doesn't sound life-changing, right? But invest $350 a month over 10 years at a reasonable long-term return, and now you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. Stretch that to 20 years, and it becomes much bigger. Stretch it to 30 years, and it becomes the kind of number that changes retirement options, career freedom, and stress levels. That's the part people never feel in the moment. Nobody walks off a dealership lot and feels the loss of future compound growth. Nobody gets a text alert saying, "Congratulations, this leather package just cost you part of your future financial independence." But that is functionally what happens. You're not just buying a nicer car, you're buying less future flexibility, less investing power, less margin, less freedom to leave a job you hate, less ability to handle emergencies, less room to breathe. And the hard truth is, most expensive car decisions are not being made at the level of true abundance. They're being made in that dangerous zone where the buyer is successful enough to qualify, but not wealthy enough for the decision to be harmless. That zone is where a ton of Americans live. They make enough to get approved, enough to justify it, enough to blend in with others doing the same thing, but not enough to absorb the long-term damage without consequences. That's why the car issue matters so much, because it often shows up right at the intersection of ego, lifestyle inflation, and invisible opportunity cost. That combination is brutal. Cars are not just transportation. If they were, this would be a much easier conversation. Cars are identity, their status, their image, their self-expression, their proof, their emotion. For some people, the car says, "I made it." For others, it says, "I'm not struggling, I'm respected, I have taste, I belong in this room, I'm doing as well as the people around me." That's why logic alone often fails here, because the car decision is rarely just math, it's emotional math. And emotional math is dangerous because it gives expensive choices a story. Not, "This is a bad financial trade-off," but "I work hard, I deserve this, I've always wanted one, I'm tired of driving something basic, I don't want people to think I'm broke, I'm finally upgrading my life." That language is powerful because it makes the purchase feel like progress. But a higher payment is not progress. A shinier liability is not progress. An upgraded image with weaker cash flow is not progress. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes the person making the smarter wealth move is the one driving the less impressive car. That person may not get admiration in the parking lot, but they may be buying something far more valuable than admiration: time, choice, breathing room, the ability to invest, the ability to walk away from nonsense, the ability to sleep at night. Real wealth often looks less impressive in public than fake wealth. That's one of the hardest truths for people to accept, because public signals are immediate. Private wealth building is delayed. The applause goes to the visible spender. The long-term freedom goes to the disciplined investor. And most people, especially in a consumer culture like the US, are constantly being nudged toward visible spending, which means if you want to make smart car decisions, you're going to have to get comfortable disappointing your ego a little. You may have to drive something that doesn't impress people. You may have to keep a car longer than your peers do. You may have to stop treating the dealership like a lifestyle upgrade center and start treating transportation like a category to optimize, not perform. That mental shift alone can save people years of financial struggle.
A lot of people think the cost of a car is the payment. That's not even close. The payment is just the part you notice first. Then come the other layers: insurance, fuel, maintenance, repairs, tires, registration, taxes, parking, higher premiums because your vehicle is more expensive, and in some cases, higher theft risk or repair complexity. So that $650 a month car is not really a $650 a month car. It may be a $900,000 or even more total monthly transportation cost once everything is included. And again, the issue isn't that transportation costs money. Of course it does. The issue is how many people allow this category to swell way beyond what's reasonable, then wonder why the rest of their finances feel squeezed. It's because every dollar going into the car category is a dollar unavailable for other goals. The car does not exist in isolation. It affects everything: your savings rate, your debt payoff speed, your investment consistency, your emergency fund, your housing choices, your job flexibility. This is why people who look financially comfortable can still feel trapped. They're not poor, they're overcommitted. And cars are often one of the biggest contributors to that overcommitment. So what should you do?
I'm not going to tell you everyone needs to drive a 20-year-old beater held together by prayer and zip ties. That's not realistic for everyone. Reliability matters, safety matters, peace of mind matters. But smarter usually looks like this. Buy less car than you technically qualify for. Keep cars longer. Avoid treating upgrades like milestones. Focus on total cost, not payment. And ask one brutally honest question before buying. Is this car helping my life or helping my image? That question cuts through a lot of nonsense. Because a good car decision is not the one that gives you the biggest emotional high today. It's the one that supports your broader financial life. Maybe that means buying used instead of new. Maybe it means choosing a reliable mid-tier vehicle instead of the luxury version. Maybe it means driving your current car for 3 more years and investing the difference. Maybe it means paying cash for something solid and boring. Maybe it means resisting the urge to upgrade just because your income went up. That last one is huge. One of the smartest things you can do when your income increases is not immediately translate that increase into a better car. Because cars are one of the fastest ways for raises to disappear. You start earning more, and suddenly the car upgrade feels deserved. But what if your raise bought investments instead? What if your raise bought flexibility? What if your raise bought the ability to retire earlier, breathe easier, and owe less? That's a much less flashy use of money. It's also usually the better one.
At a deeper level, this conversation is really about one thing. Do you want to look rich or become rich? Because those are often different paths. Looking rich is immediate. Becoming rich is delayed. Looking rich is financed. Becoming rich is accumulated. Looking rich is visible to strangers. Becoming rich is usually invisible for a long time. And cars sit right in the center of that conflict. They're one of the easiest ways to buy the appearance of success while slowing down the reality of it. That doesn't mean you can never own a great car. It doesn't mean nice cars are immoral. It doesn't mean everyone should optimize every dollar into joyless spreadsheets. It means your financial decisions should match your actual goals. If your goal is freedom, then your money should move toward freedom. If your goal is peace, your money should move toward peace. If your goal is wealth, your money should move toward assets, not endless depreciation. That's the standard. And once you start thinking that way, the car decision changes. You stop asking, what do I want to drive right now? You start asking, what kind of financial life am I trying to build? That question is more powerful than almost any dealership pitch. So, is your car automatically the worst financial decision you'll ever make? Not always, but for a shocking number of people, it's very high on the list. Because it's large, it's emotional, it's normalized, it's easy to justify, and it quietly competes with wealth building for years. That's what makes it dangerous. Not that it destroys your finances overnight, but that it delays your future so smoothly you barely notice it happening. And that may be the most expensive kind of mistake there is. So here's what I want you to do after this video. Go look at your transportation costs honestly. Not just your payment, everything. Your loan payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, repairs, registration. Add it all up. Then ask yourself, is this number helping me build the life I want? Or is it just the price I'm paying to maintain an image I got used to defending? That question might make you uncomfortable. Good, because discomfort is often where financial clarity begins. And if you realize your car is costing you more than it's worth, not emotionally, but financially, then maybe the answer isn't to keep upgrading your income to support the car. Maybe the answer is to stop letting the car eat the income in the first place. That's how people start getting ahead. Not always with one giant dramatic move, but with one clear decision. I'm done confusing normal with smart. If this video changed the way you think about cars and money, hit the like button and subscribe.
because this channel is all about exposing the financial decisions that look normal on the surface, but quietly keep people broke, stressed, and behind. And I want to hear from you in the comments. What's one financial purchase people treat as normal that you think is actually hurting their wealth the most? And be honest, do you think cars are worth it, or are they one of the biggest wealth traps in America? I read the comments, and I'd love to know where you stand. I'll see you in the next one.